The use of digitized graphics has a long and fascinating history in the video game industry. This is the technique of taking photos and videos of actual human performances and turning it into game visuals. This first emerged in the early 1980s and went on to have a significant impact on the industry, and went on to be a very cool and stylized way to make a game. One of the earliest examples of digitized graphics in games was a 1983 title based on the band Journey. The game featured the band members in digitized sprite form, and it was one of the first widely released titles to utilize the technology at the time. The cabinet had a feature where it would take a photo of your face and put it into the game, but it was shut down after 2 days of testing at a local arcade, because on the second day someone got up on a stool and pulled their pants down in front of the camera. Fearing that this would become a common occurrence, they pulled the game. Despite this early setback, digitized graphics began to gain traction in the late 1980s. Games like China Warrior and No Rico utilize the technique. I don't even know how that's pronounced. Okay, this is just getting worse. Reikai, Doushi. However, it wasn't until the release of Pit Fighter in 1990 that digitized graphics really took off in the fighting game genre. A lot of people like myself remember playing Pit Fighter on the Midway Arcade Treasures 2. Midway Arcade Treasures 2 was the best in its series, and that's not up for debate. It also had NARC on it as well, a 1988 co-op run and gun featuring digitized graphics.
We're on our way.
In the early 90s, we saw many more games use digitized sprites of real actors. Games like Lethal Enforcers and the original Mortal Kombat used the approach to bring their characters to life in a way that was groundbreaking at the time. The ability to capture the nuanced movements and expressions of live performers was a significant step forward in creating more lifelike and immersive gaming experiences. However, the use of digitized graphics in mainstream games began to come to an end in the early 2000s, as 3D rendering and CGI started to rise up and become more advanced. Games today still use live action, but nobody really uses them as sprites anymore. Now, let's go back just a little bit, back to the 90s part. So, a little after the release of Mortal Kombat, there was a rival to Mortal Kombat soon to hit the streets, ready to take over the arcades, and that game was Dark Presence. Coming soon to arcades and Sega Genesis. Do you remember this game? Neither do I, and that's because the game was never finished. And 30 years later, we are here to take a look at it now to figure out where exactly the game is at. The creator of Dark Presence is Doc Mack, who later in life went on to be the founder of Galloping Ghost Arcade, which is the largest arcade in the world. Before he founded the arcade, Doc wanted to make his own fighting game. This was in the 90s and he wanted to make a game just like Mortal Kombat, one of the most popular fighting games at the time that utilized digitized graphics with a dark and gritty theme. But Doc is a perfectionist, even so that he refilmed all of the graphics 3 times. So taking that and mixing it with the development of other projects like starting an arcade, you can see how the game appeared to just fade away. But after all these years, Doc has always had this dream game on his radar, and it's nearing completion. So much so that he started a Kickstarter for the game, raising almost $70,000, and is releasing a documentary on the interesting story of the game's development as well. The documentary will release alongside the game, and the team has been hard at work updating everyone on progress via their Kickstarter updates. So he's taking what was his old digitized fighting game from the 90s, keeping it the same as a stylistic choice, and releasing it in modern day. Last year, I made a video talking about digitized graphics in fighting games, but going over the lesser known titles that were some of the strangest fighting games I've ever seen. The last game to be featured in that video was Dark Presence, as it was something I stumbled upon when going deep down the rabbit hole. I thought the game was already released when I was making the video, since I saw some old match footage on YouTube from many years ago, so I wanted to at least try the game in person before finishing the creation of that video. So I called the arcade and they told me that the game was still not finished, to my surprise. And that's when I found the Kickstarter and wrapped up the video talking about the bright future of the game and how I believe that they really will finish it after all these years. Shortly after that video was released, I was actually contacted by Galloping Ghost and invited to try out the game in person. So in this video, I'll be talking all about the game and what I think after getting to play with the development team. You'll learn many things, including a lot of exclusive information and fun facts about the game. So let's take a look. First of all, let's talk about the cabinet. We've got a 6-button layout with bat top arcade sticks, which is my personal favorite. And for the size of the whole cabinet, I'm not joking when I say this is the largest cabinet I've ever seen. It's the size of a car. The team wanted something large that would draw a lot of attention, and yeah, they're gonna make multiple of these and distribute them to arcades, and yes, they do have plans on making smaller ones for people like myself to purchase and put into their homes. Dark Presence is only playable through the cabinet. You won't be able to download the game at home. This is to bring back the arcade experience and to show people that you can put an arcade cabinet into your business and it will still sell. I was told that they plan to do this for at least 1 year, and then they'll have the game available for download online. They've had private showings with many arcade owners, and have sales lined up for these cabinets, so you might actually see one of these near you. The cabinet also has a funny feature to it, so depending on where you're playing the cabinet, you can actually have day and night cycles and dynamic weather, so if it's snowing outside or raining outside, expect the fight within the game to be the same. And the cabinet has a touchscreen on it as well. It keeps track of stats, records matches, and gives you in-depth details on learning materials like frame data. And finally, there's a prize box on the cabinet. So if you beat arcade mode with 1 credit and no continues, you will get a prize. This prize is a sculpture of the character you won with, created by a sculptor from McFarlane Toys. So these are high quality. My only concern with this is maybe arcade owners who purchase the cabinet will go inside, take them out and resell them for high amounts of money as collector's items, or will just show them off and not have them for sale, but I think it's a really great feature. I like the sculptures, I think they look really good. Oh, and one more thing. This is really weird, and I was not told about this and I didn't see it on the cabinet either, but I read a really old development article that they wrote on their website, and it said something about how they have this unique feature called a shock band, and you would actually put it on your wrist, and whenever you would receive a heavy amount of damage, the band would shock you. This would be completely optional, and for safety purposes, when you're getting shocked, it's not like it's gonna pull the electricity straight out the wall outlet. It's going to pull it from a small battery-powered device that would shock you just a little bit. This idea is great, you know, it's like in Street Fighter when you get blown up by a huge combo and you end up getting stunned. It's just like that, but in real life, so you'll probably end up killing your opponent in real life before you do in the game. Either that, or you'll play enough matches that your fingers won't hurt anymore because you will no longer feel them. Jokes aside, it's a small, fun feature that I don't think would hurt anyone, and yeah, I thought it was just worth mentioning. Now, let's talk about the characters. So, first, we will start with what I'd like to call the Ryu and Ken, the Scorpion and Sub-Zero, you know, the all-around poster boys. So, we'll start with Wilson. After losing a fight with his twin brother Trenton, Wilson is approached by the Mind Master. He tells Wilson that he can help him defeat Trenton. Mind Master attempts to take him over mentally but fails, resulting in Wilson being driven crazy. Now Wilson is bloodthirsty and looking to even the score with Trenton, and anyone else who may get in his way. His lightning-fast attacks make Wilson unstoppable. Trenton. Unknown to him, Trenton is one of Mind Master's main concerns in town. His twin brother Wilson has also been turned against him after a recent fallout. Trenton now has to watch his back. Fortunately, with his razor-sharp sword and incredible speed, Trenton can usually handle any situation. Wilson and Trenton are both the same guy, but instead of a palette swap, it's a put on a different clothes swap. And the person playing these two characters is actually Doc Mack himself, the creator of the game. Wilson's shirt translates to sky or heaven, it's believed. And Wilson and Trenton fight for family. Next, we have the guy who looks like he's wearing a sock on his head. He's one of my favorite character designs because he looks so mysterious. Vincent Cron was a martial artist who trained in seclusion until he was ambushed by Titan, Ravonna, and Mind Master. After the intense battle, he was blinded and left for dead. Vincent could not go on as he once was. He could only go by the name Vale from that point on. His sight was taken from him, but in return he was given a reason for revenge. Vampirial. When Vampirial found Mind Master in his mansion, he was not prepared to fight him. Now, his true love, Ravonna, has been turned against him. Vampirial must track Mind Master down and fight to save Ravonna with his double-bladed scythe. Vampirial's reach is a devastating force to reckon with. Ravonna. No longer in control of her own actions, Ravonna is forced to fight anyone who opposes Mind Master. Mind Master has also turned her against Vampirial, Ravonna's true love. Her uncontrolled rage makes her dangerous and unpredictable. Vampirial and Ravonna fight for love. Kyla. Kyla was a bounty hunter with the Distant Empire organization, until while on an assignment with Kincaid. A mistake of his almost cost her her life. After a run-in with Titan, Kyla is forced into a fight for what is hers. She wants nothing more to do with Kincaid or Distant Empire, and with her dangerous blades, she will most likely get what she wants. Kincaid. One of the best bounty hunters within the Distant Empire organization, Kincaid has been given the job of stopping Mind Master and Titan. When he finds out that Kyla is involved, he looks to take the opportunity to solve their differences and put the past behind him. Kincaid's fierce strength will help him bring in the latest bounties. Kyla and Kincaid fight for honor. Titan. As the ruthless leader of the Cyclone Gang, Titan keeps the town in constant fear. He convinces Mind Master that he will be able to help him take over the town, if he spares his life. What Titan lacks in speed and agility, he more than makes up with his brute force strength and violent fighting tactics. Titan fights for power. And finally, the question we've all been thinking this entire time, who is Mind Master? Mind Master is forced to flee his parents' mansion after witnessing a mob of townspeople murder his mother and father. Forced to live in seclusion for years, Mind Master swears to get revenge. He trains and develops extraordinary mind powers that allow him to control thoughts. He senses many strong forces within the town, which he will deal with first, and then the rest of the town will fall with ease. Mind Master is the end boss of the game, and is unplayable. He senses many strong forces within the town, which is most likely the reason why the game is called Dark Presence. For the stages, there's not a lot of screenshots available online of the stages in the game, but I will say that the stages are in full 3D, meaning that they're not sprites, and the stages also have a lot of Easter eggs in them too, like the Galloping Ghost logo seen in the background of the rooftop stage, or on the ground level you're actually fighting in front of the arcade, and you can see the famous Galloping Ghost vehicle parked in the middle of the street. There is just a lot of Easter eggs and references and fun things to find within these stages, and they're really great to look at as well. Now let's talk about the gameplay. So, according to their website, the game runs at 30 FPS, but I can tell you right now, the game is made in Unity using UFE, which is the Universal Fighting Engine. Many games use this engine, like smaller indie titles such as the Fight of series, like Fight of Gods, Fight of Animals, Fight of Robots, or another game like Terradrome 2, the horror fighting game. And we also have larger titles that use the engine, like Fantasy Strike, the free-to-play game that's on everything. It's on console, it's on PC. Now, about the FPS, a lot of their website was written in about 2005 to 2006, when you start going pretty deep into things, so I'm pretty sure it's at 60 FPS. When I was playing it, it looked perfectly fine. They would almost have to intentionally go out of their way to do something like 30 FPS unless it's due to like a limitation that they're facing, but either way, the game plays perfectly fine. Speaking of 2005, these character sprites were actually captured in 2005 with the best equipment out there. These sprites still do hold up pretty well, and the game is stated to be in 1080p, which back in 2005 to have 1080p graphics is crazy as well. So you can definitely tell that there are no corners cut when it comes to the visuals. At the top of the screen, you'll see 3 orange health bars. That's just your health. You have 3 tanks of health, and there's no rounds or anything like that. You just keep fighting till all 3 bars are gone. They go down one by one. And next to that, you can see the 2 white bars of meter. This is your meter to do enhanced special moves or to go into your rage mode. The Rage mode is an install super, which for those who don't know, an install super is like a powered up limited time mode state that you can put the character into, like a V-trigger in Street Fighter V for example. When you have that full meter, you can go ahead and activate Rage mode and it'll make your character incredibly strong. In this clip you can actually see Titan going into Rage mode, and he's taking 1/4 of the opponent's health off with each weapon slash. So that's crazy damage. You also have 4 attack buttons, so 2 punches and 2 kicks. You can chain them together, so you can do like punch 1, punch 2, kick 2. You can kind of mix and match the buttons a little bit just according to the character you're using. You can make some fun scenarios and situations and make some pretty long combos, link them into special moves, and just pretty traditional fighting game stuff. And for defensive options, you can actually backdash, and that's invincible during the first half of that backdash animation. And we also have one of the most important details of the game, and that's the side you're on. Player 1 side meaning your character is facing right, and player 2 facing left. So Dark Presence, they have something called non-flipped character models, and that's saying typically, in fighting games, they create a single side of a character, and then they simply reverse the image when the character turns around. This can lead to visual inconsistencies, such as a character's tattoo or other asymmetrical details appearing on the wrong side of the body when they face the other side. Which, fun fact, this was actually something Capcom had to address in Street Fighter III with the boss character Gil. One side of his body was red and the other one was blue. So programming tricks were used to swap the colors around when he switched directions. For Dark Presence, the development team took the extra step of filming and animating fully distinct left and right sides for each character. It significantly increased the amount of content that needed to be created by them, as it effectively doubles the required character assets that they would need to make. And what they did is they turned this into a gameplay mechanic. So depending on the side that you're facing, you actually have unique moves and different things that you can do. For example, if you use Kincaid and you're facing one specific side, you can actually guard in the air if you're on the P2 side. And if you use Titan and you're on a specific side, you actually get new attacks to use. The developers think that the addition of this is going to add a new strategic element, as players will need to position themselves to take advantage of their preferred moves. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. Now that I think of it, I wonder how that would go in a tournament setting. Would there be like a rock, paper, scissors to see who gets the preferred side? What if a character was great on the player 1 side, but would be significantly worse on the player 2 side? Regardless, all of the gameplay mechanics that exist make this fighting game a whole lot of fun, and adds a lot of depth. I felt like I really wanted to get to know my character and get better with them, and I walked away from the playtest feeling like I just scratched the surface. It would be interesting to see what I could come up with if I just played for a few more hours. In a game like Mortal Kombat, after you've won the match, you're able to finish off your opponent with a special finishing move. When a character won, he or she could stand a certain distance away from the opponent and enter a special button combination. The screen would go dark and the victor would perform a fatality, which would be anything from ripping a heart out or punching a head off to supernatural moves like breathing fire on your opponent or freezing him in ice. Each character had 1 or 2 different finishing moves as well. The way that they were filmed was similar to regular basic moves. The actors would do an attack and then the opponents would do a separate reaction. Dark Presence has taken this concept to a whole new level, so these finishing moves will have a film-like cinematic quality. Unlike Mortal Kombat, every actor has finished each finishing move with every other actor. And it ends up viewing like a short movie, so each character has 3 separate finishing moves, which are called A, B, and C. However, they have been designed in such a way that they can be linked together. Finishing move A can link into finishing move B, and finishing move B can link into finishing move C. All 3 can be done together for a very dramatic, action-filled finishing move. The developers say that this will be a big draw to get players to keep playing to see all the finishing moves. The last time that a system was done like this was actually Mortal Kombat Armageddon, and that was pretty weird. I remember you could link together, you could just slam their head into the ground, and then you could link that into an uppercut, and then when they stand back up, you could slam their head into the ground. That was kind of weird. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Dark Presence does this new and improved linkable finishing move system. We're going to take a short break from this video to actually make a tier list for the game, but this tier list is based completely on artificial intelligence and how it thinks that you should play the game. So this is kind of stupid and funny, but I thought it would be worth showing you guys and making the first tier list ever for Dark Presence, so let's go. In the S tier, of course, we have Mind Master. Here's what AI says. Mind Master's extraordinary mind powers, allowing him to control the thoughts of others, make him the most formidable fighter in the group. His ability to manipulate the opponent's mind gives him a significant advantage. Mind Master is S tier, and I will need to use my mind-controlling abilities to manipulate the other player in real life who is playing next to me. I gotta make sure to remember that. And for the A tier, we got the Little Mind Master Titan. So AI says that Titan's brute strength and violent fighting tactics make him a powerful opponent, despite his lack of speed and agility. His sheer physical prowess and ruthlessness make him a dangerous foe. And the piece of advice says, focus on Titan's brute strength and violent fighting attacks to create an oppressive, high-pressure playstyle. Okay, I mean, that's decent. For the next A tier, we have Vampirial. So Vampirial's devastating double-bladed scythe and determination to save his love, Ravonna, from Mind Master's control make him a skilled and motivated fighter. His reach and weapon proficiency give him an edge. And the advice says here that when I use Vampirial, I have to watch out for his desperation to save Ravonna, as this could make him reckless. I need to incorporate Vampirial's desperation to save Ravonna into my playstyle, and I have to use that emotional drive to become more powerful and just make more aggressive maneuvers. I'll be sure to keep that one in mind. B tier, we're going to start off strong with Ravonna. And Ravona's uncontrolled rage and the fact that she is being forced to fight against her will makes her a dangerous but unpredictable opponent. Her lack of control over her actions is a significant weakness, and the advice says I will need to utilize her unpredictable rage-fueled movements and attacks. Next, we have Wilson. Wilson's lightning-fast attacks and his bloodthirsty nature makes him a formidable fighter. However, his mental instability and the fact that he is driven by a desire for revenge against his twin brother Trenton could be his downfall. When using Wilson, I will need to master the timing and spacing of my combos. And for Trenton, he's the next one in line. It says that his razor-sharp sword and incredible speed make him a skilled fighter. His main advantage is his ability to handle most situations, but he may be at a disadvantage against his mentally unstable twin, Wilson. To win, I will incorporate feints, mix-ups, and unpredictable movement to throw off the opponent's rhythm. Now we got two left in the B tier. It's going to be Kyla, so Kyla's dangerous blades and her determination to distance herself from her past with Kincaid and Distant Empire make her a capable fighter. However, her lack of experience in dealing with the supernatural elements may hinder her. And the advice says I will need to leverage Kyla's determination to distance herself from the past to fuel a relentless, single-minded playstyle. And lastly, in the B tiers, we have Kincaid. So Kincaid's fierce strength and his role as a bounty hunter for Distant Empire give him an advantage. However, his personal issues with Kyla and his focus on capturing Mindmaster and Titan may distract him from being his best. To win with Kincaid, I will need to develop a playstyle that can counter or evade the opponent. The B tiers were just very average and solid. So lastly, I saved the best for last. We have the C tier, the worst tier in the game. There is only one character, and it's Vale. Vale's blindness and the trauma he has endured from the previous encounter with Titan, Ravona, and Mindmaster make him the weakest fighter in the group. His desire for revenge may drive him, but his lack of sight is a significant disadvantage. And the advice says, in order to win with Vale, I will need to develop combos and attacks that don't rely on visual cues, but instead I will need to focus on tactile feedback and spatial awareness. I will also need to leverage Vale's heightened senses beyond sight, like enhanced hearing or touch, to track and anticipate the opponent's movements. Well, that got pretty deep. None of it made sense, but it got pretty deep. So there you have it. That's the first tier list for Dark Presence made by me. And once people get their hands on the game more, you can come back and say, hey, this tier list was really great, and 10 years later, it's still looking the same. Or you can say, what the heck was that? And the dev team, if you're watching this video, I want you to comment below and tell me, is this tier list pretty good? Yes or no? Okay, so let's wrap things up here. Now, before we get into what I really liked about the game, let's talk about a few things that we could improve on here. And do remember, the game is still in development, so the developers may be aware of everything here, but I thought this is worth mentioning in case they did not have these things on their radar. So first, the health display system may initially seem a bit unconventional to new players. Rather than the typical single health bar system, this game features 3 unlabeled meters at the top of the screen. This unique approach to visualizing a fighter's health could take some getting used to, especially for those accustomed to a more standard health UI design. The developers may want to consider ways to make the health display more intuitive for newcomers without necessarily abandoning the core design choice. And this could be small adjustments such as clear labeling or visual cues when you lose a bar of health, because there are no KOs until you're fully dead. It could go a long way in helping players understand and engage with the game more seamlessly. And lastly, the use of touchscreens on the cabinet. Integrating these touchscreens into the cabinet design do add extra functionality, such as accessing move list or recording matches, but at the same time, the touchscreens may become susceptible to wear and tear in a public arcade setting. And sometimes with those arcades too, regular maintenance and cleaning might not always be the best, unfortunately. Issues like cracked touchscreens, broken touchscreens, or a beat-up appearance on them could detract from the polished premium feel that the game is aiming for. And arcade cabinets need to really be able to withstand heavy use and still maintain their visual appearance and core functionality too. Even if those touchscreens are tough, they can still be a headache or expensive to repair if something goes wrong with them. The development team could explore alternative ways to provide the extra features and information without relying solely on the touchscreens. This could involve a more durable, low-maintenance piece, or even integrating certain functions directly into the main gameplay experience. And the goal is just to strike a balance between the grand vision for Dark Presence and the practical realities of the arcade environment. With some thoughtful design consideration, there might be a creative solution that will still enhance the player experience while still ensuring the longevity and reliability of the cabinets. Dark Presence is a truly impressive fighting game that showcases the passion and dedication to crafting a unique and immersive experience. The world they have created has that same exact dark fantasy feel that evokes the spirit of classic titles like Mortal Kombat. The game's visuals stand out, like how the health bars explode when a character is knocked out, transforming the attacker into a monstrous state. This sense of intensity is further amplified with Mindmaster looking right at you. And Mindmaster too, he is one of my favorite designs right next to Wilson and Trenton. The yin-yang symbolism you see all over the game, and then you meet the guy who resembles it. The journey to his family's mansion where you're locked behind a tall fence and nobody else in sight. It's that sense that you fought so hard to get to this point and now there's no turning around. It feels hopeless, yet you want to still keep fighting to defeat him. And after numerous attempts, I think it was over 30, the developers had to step in and help, but I always felt like I could have got him if I just gave it one more try. The game also has a really rewarding combat system that encourages players to master the intricate mechanics. The depth of the fighting styles for each character and the sides that they're on provide a lot of room for players to develop their own strategies and playstyles. And I honestly think that Dark Presence stands out as a pretty impressive achievement. You know, most fighting games in the 90s were only here to make a quick buck or to be a direct copy of another game. But Dark Presence really had passion behind it, and we know it's true. Because after all that hype died down, and after that era came to an end, they're still here to finish what they started. And why? I'll let Doc answer that one.
I hope we put out a game that everyone enjoys, that they're talking about is the next big thing.
It's been some time, but Dark Presence will be out.